So, here we are again in Kasia's basement.
Freaking out, bouncing around.
In the aftermath of 24 Season 7, Episode 6.
Okay, so last week was a workup. It was a development, obviously, which satisfied this week. Wow.
Yeah, last week was a bit of a transitional episode, I think is the general feeling.
Yeah.
This week, a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
I think probably the best way to go through this episode would just be chronologically.
Yeah, I think so too. Which works out well for us because all the orgasmic stuff happened right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, works out.
So the episode opens with Bill Buchanan and Chloe O'Brien arriving at the construction site
Uncovering
and
Renee.
digging up Renee Walker.
Okay, which was really great. The commitment there to really burying Renee was quite evident, and I thought that was a really good move. That there was some visceral sort of urgency there. There was, I don't know, it added a lot of impact to that moment, and I have to make a quick note about Buchanan and just how desperate and without pretense he is. He's so present. Do you know what I mean? And so gritty and honest and there's nothing there but Bill. Right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing there but the mission. And
yeah, that character has evolved a lot.
Yeah,
actually, like even just so far in this season, but
yeah.
I the whole thing with Renee and how Bill and Chloe came, like I didn't really expect them to quite get there in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I expected them to go a different way. Like, I think the general feeling was kind of like, well, she wasn't buried very thoroughly, so she'll easily be able to just kind of pull the plastic off her face and dig herself out.
You know what? This is good, though, because, Jack and Tony making sure that Renee can't get out herself, run amok, freak out, get amnesia, whatever, I don't know, run off and tell Moss or whatever she was going to do. No, this pins her there and makes it possible for, Bill and Chloe to do the saving and get her on side.
Yeah, and I think it was a good move to kind of bring all the major players together so early in the game.
And I was thinking, made this mention earlier in the show, when things really start to go down in the White House and things start to get crazy and intense and everything's blowing up everywhere, we need our team together. We don't have a CTU this season. We don't have a core group of protagonists, and it's really important that we have that core that really trust each other and are working on the same page.
Totally.
You need, you need players in all the different fields. You need people everywhere working together to fight, right? And you can't do it with two people. You can't do it with one. You can't do it with people scattered all over the place with different agendas. So I think this is really, really great, and it gives us the kind of connection and investment within the team that we need to really, really adhere to the show, to have an emotional sort of commitment there.
And I also kind of liked how the writers were being, again, ambiguous with the silent clock, basically giving Renee the silent clock in the previous episode. And she did actually die, but she hadn't been dead for very long, like only for a few minutes.
Yeah, so, silent clock is like the almost dead thing.
But I'm starting to feel like the silent clock is maybe losing a little bit of credibility.
Well, I think they had to backtrack a little bit when so much attention was paid to it. The first few times it was used, now they're using it as a tool, where before it was a statement to make theatrical impact, right? And so now they know that it has impact as a dramatic device.
Yeah, you're right, totally.
And so they're using it that way now. So
So Bill and Chloe arrive on the scene, rescue Renee, all is well. Which brings us to this scene then in the van, on the way to the meet with Nichols.
Right.
Where we basically have Emerson and Jack and Tony.
And
getting real personal about some shit.
Really?
And I have to say, I just want to tell everyone, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it. Because Christopher Henderson and David Emerson were connected all along. The whole thing was fucking planned. How it was planned, I have no idea. Maybe Henderson intended to get caught all along so he could do this. Who the fuck knows?
Who knows? But you did call it.
Yes.
Way to go. Kudos to you.
But I still want a little bit more explanation. Like, I don't think we're gonna get it because basically Emerson's done now. He's dead.
And they've pretty much fleshed out what's
Yeah,
happened as
I
far
think-
as the emotional impact goes, and as far as all the geeky little details go, that's not what they're concerned about.
No,
right?
I think that, this is pretty much all we're gonna get as far as backstory on the Henderson-Emerson connection. I mean, who knows? I could be wrong. I would like it if I was wrong. That would be nice. But,
I think the only way that would happen were if there were leaks, corruptions, connections that stem outwards from Henderson.
Maybe going back to
retroactively,
Logan.
if other stuff starts to play into this whole corruption thing, maybe.
Well, I mean, they've already basically given us one link between the Day 5 conspiracy and this conspiracy, right?
Yep.
Could there be other links?
There might. I mean, as the show begins to try and close off loose ends, tries to bookend itself, I think we're probably going to be seeing more ties to previous days start to show up. They're going to want to start to pull threads from the beginning to wrap up things, to prepare to wrap. Not that we're anticipating it or looking forward to it, but they have to start doing that, right, as far as the unity of the show goes.
True.
Which is kind of exciting because there was a lot of juice that happened. There was a lot of meat that went on before that I would like to see addressed again and watch those old things start to surface.
Yeah, I would like it if they were able to delve a little deeper into this kind of like connection between any like possible connections between the corruption in Logan's administration and then just stemming off from that into now. But
now, as far as delving deeper goes, it just brought to mind how you and I were discussing Carlos's commitment to Tony.
Oh yeah, which brings us
season.
Basically to the big scene like that we were just referring to.
What a heartbreaking. You guys, did you even like? I'm sure you understood the impact of what Tony was saying and the emotional intensity there. I don't even know where to start. There's so much stuff in there.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I can't say that I think Carlos Bernard has ever as completely inhabited the character of Tony Almeida as he is this season.
It's so genuine.
He's feeding off of the real dark stuff so much.
Yeah.
And, just like bringing complete passion and commitment to that character and to those moments. And
and really, I really, really appreciate how in the Tony character this season, he's committed genuinely to what he did and also to what he's doing. There's no saying, oh, that wasn't really me, but this is really me now, or I'm conflicted about this and that. No. Everything is 100% committed to. Everything is really real.
In every moment, from the minute that, he died in Day 5, and then, of course, being revived and remembering that Michelle had been murdered, and then watching the whole kind of aftermath of that play out, where basically Logan gets a slap on the wrist and a happy vacation and a 100-acre California ranch for, essentially standing idly by while, terrorists murdered his wife.
Yep. And then the total commitment, the love and how he winds up portraying it and experiencing it through his grief is just so human, and it's so intense, and it's played with such integrity by Carlos. I really, really appreciated that. Really fully enjoyed watching it. The speech that he gave to Emerson about Jack and about his own journey there was so intense. There's so much I want to say about it. First point, I guess, would be the mention of the brotherhood and how he was talking about Emerson as a brother and knew what kind of betrayal that would have sounded like to Jack. Thank God Jack is on the same page.
Yes,
but how painful that would have been for Tony to say.
Absolutely, but
right in front of him, because he's admitting and confessing to Jack at that moment what happened.
And as we've seen, absolutely, no, you're right. But I mean, as we've seen before, those moments are kind of both Tony playing a role, trying to remain in character for Emerson, right? Like the man that he knows.
But he's also reliving the reality of that situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
retroactive,
and that's why it was so, so emotional and so, like, honest, and, you can't fake that, right?
Yeah. So he's basically just rewinding himself a little bit and putting himself back where he was during those 3 years.
Yeah, and also allowing Jack to get a glimpse of, like, how much pain he's been in, and kind of, like, the dark place that he went to, and obviously, which then kind of leads on to the scene where they arrive at, their meeting site, and Emerson, of course, is suspicious, and, he knows something's not right, so he puts Tony to the test, like, where is your loyalties really lie? Like, is it with me or is it with Jack Bauer? And he got his answer, you know, and I don't think anyone could be surprised at the choice Tony made. Of course he's gonna pick Jack. Jack! It's Jack.
It's Jack. Well, and especially, okay, speaking of Jack now, how relieved I am that there's no note of preachiness or shock or lecturing, oh, you bad Tony, oh, look what happened to you. In Jack's character right now. You don't see it in his face, you don't see it in his manner. He's not blaming Tony for anything. He's just there.
Yeah.
And I really love that, because if it would have kept going, like with episode 1, Jack saying, what the hell happened to you? Forever. Constantly lording it over Tony would have been really, really pedantic.
Of course, and that's, I mean, as soon as he found out what Tony was really doing and what was really going on, like, of course he's on side.
I love the presence of total forgiveness.
Absolutely.
That's constantly at play here, which works lovely. It works really well within the theme of our particular website and our focus. It's just the redemption there is very dramatic, it's very genuine, it's very human, and I'm able to invest and connect in that.
Well, I think the thing is that, like, throughout the series, obviously Jack and Tony have both experienced, great sacrifice, great personal loss, great tragedy in their lives. But I think the thing is that Tony could never, like, really understand Jack's perspective until he lost his wife as well. And I think, so even though, Tony ended up taking his anger and his grief to a different place than Jack did, where Jack sort of shut down emotionally, whereas Tony, was completely overtaken by his emotions and allowed them to consume him, right? But Jack still understands, like, how powerful a force that grief and that rage is, and so that's why he's capable of forgiving Tony and basically saying, you know what you've done, but you're still Tony. You're still that same friend, that same brother, right?
And I love how that dynamic is sort of reflected in the oh, help me. The name of the Sengali, the good guys. Matobo and his wife. Their commitment to each other, and being able to iterate that commitment, to vocalize it in an intimate way, is a really great reflection of the dynamic that's going on between Jack and Tony. At the same time, we're seeing that kind of loyalty, that honor, in a way that obviously Jack and Tony can't share, but it's a beautiful balance, I think.
Like a nice juxtaposition.
A juxtaposition, yeah.
I mean, I think it's quite obvious that sort of, Tony killing Emerson is basically intended sort of as a metaphor for Tony, choosing which road, he wants to go down now. Like, he wants the road to redemption, of course.
You know what?
Right?
Yeah.
So, hold on. So, I think that obviously the statement they're trying to make is that by killing Emerson, Tony is killing that part of himself.
Yes,
and, and, like, as you kind of said while we were watching, it's also symbolic of his letting go of his grief over Michelle and being ready to move on now.
Yeah, and what a beautiful moment that they allowed in that quiet space there when Tony was allowed to really react to the impact of Emerson dying. It's not just a bad guy dying.
Yeah, of course. He was obviously conflicted.
Yeah, and I mean it's the conflict is there for sure, but the weight.
The weight, yeah,
is so important that we know that he really is grieving, and now there's a certain new kind of thing that has to happen where you actually let go of that person you love. It's taken until now for him to let go. and he's not letting go of Emerson that he loves.
And he almost had to, of Michelle,
Yeah.
And he almost had to lose himself to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
But I loved Emerson's last words, like, well, you'll have to live with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was the perfect thing for Emerson to say, you know? I mean, because like Tony said in episode 4, Emerson's about 2 things: money, personal loyalty, and obviously Tony showed where his loyalty was, you know, so he had no loyalty to Emerson, so obviously, like, to Emerson, he was dead to him. He didn't care, right? You know, the minute he knew Tony wasn't really loyal to him, it was just like, whatever, go to hell, that's what he said, right?
Yeah. I wonder how
So there was definitely no emotion coming back the same way, which kind of going back to sort of cat sneezing.
Yeah.
To kind of thinking about, you know, like, writing this whole backstory between these 2 characters in our heads, like, based on what we've seen, right? Kind of, you know, all of that comfort that Emerson provided to Tony, and all of that, you know, that ear, like, saying how he listened to him and counseled him, and, you know, so on. It was all a lie. It was all a means to an end, you know, because at the end of the day, he had no emotion whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, when he knew that Almeida's loyalties weren't really with him, but were with something greater, you know, like, there was absolutely nothing there.
That statement, he's about personal loyalty, makes you think that personal loyalty is important to him, but it's not. It's not something that he personally invests in. Personal loyalty is a playing card.
It's a condition. It's a condition of people's relationship with him, right? Yeah. It's never about his loyalty to them. That he doesn't value that. No,
it's a tool.
It's a tool, absolutely.
It's a tool, yeah.
So I think Emerson got the death he deserved. You know, it was obviously huge emotional stakes for Almeida. We saw some amazing stuff from Carlos Bernard in those scenes.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
You know, and I don't think that, and I also think they made the right choice by kind of getting this whole Emerson Jack Tony confrontation over with as well. Like, as much as I like the Emerson character and, you know, would have enjoyed seeing more of him, like, I think we kind of got the explanation we were looking for, and then,
and how much further could they really take
right,
it? Yeah.
like, you know, the confrontation was coming sooner or later. We all know it, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think they played it out exactly right.
It's quite expedient.
I know a little predictable. I mean,
no, but I'm saying that the writers this season are they're not dragging anything out for masturbatory purposes. They're not just milking stuff for the sake of milking it. Very, very efficient, I think, right now, and
But it seems like they definitely have a plan with where they want the arcs to go and how it's sort of, you know, all flowing together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, things are happening at the White House.
God, yeah. You know, I kind of, like, I thought it was, like, really a strange sort of, like, way of kind of unfolding the story in this episode, how they basically sandwiched, like, a whole long, big thing about the White House in between this kind of, like, crazy, super intense Jack Tony action at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then kind of at the end as well, like, with Nichols and the big, huge firefight and all of that, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know, and I found it getting a little tedious. Like, I would have just, like, one more scene in there with Jack and Tony, you know, or maybe Bill and Chloe, like, something to kind of keep that thread alive a bit more before, because it was just, like, we had one whole segment, like, you know, between commercials where there was no Jack Tony at all, and then, you know, it was all White House, blah, 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 and then they come back and it's, like, another big, huge segment with no Jack Tony. Or maybe, like, a small bit of Jack Tony. Those threads need to be developed, obviously, right? We need to be able to see those things move forward, but I mean, everybody knows what storyline we're really interested in watching. I mean, of course, they have to evolve the others separately before it all comes together and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we got in previous seasons that we're not getting now is that because CTU is defunct, we're not getting that constant communication between the White House and the protagonist.
True. That's true.
Anymore. And so there can't be the presence of who we love interacting with the other storylines.
For sure, yeah.
Which may wind up happening later.
I think it will. I think it will.
But, you know, speaking of the White House, talking about the president, about her performance.
Yeah, her big scene tonight obviously was the round table with the cabinet where, you know, the attack happened. So, okay, I'm still sorry. Like, my mind was wandering, but I'm still a little unclear on exactly what the incident was. There were two planes that were destroyed, but did they make the planes crash into each other?
I believe so.
Because they mentioned something about a structure. So I thought maybe, like, they crashed into a radio tower.
No, I think what happened was, and forgive me, viewers, if I'm wrong here too, but I think what happened was the planes collided in midair.
Okay.
And then, pieces fell down into the neighborhood, and there were casualties on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a residential area close to the White House. So, that's the problem there. Now they're talking about airplanes over some kind of a facility in Ohio, I think it is.
Okay.
And that facility is going to increase casualties a lot. It's something.
Okay. Well,
big.
So we're not exactly sure completely 100% what Debaku has planned next, but
not exactly how it's going to go down, but yeah.
But anyway, going back to the roundtable scene with the president and her cabinet,
and her speech
I'll let you speak to that because
Sure.
I think that that was a big standout for you tonight. So
it really struck me because up until now we've been dealing with the White House reiterating the threat over and over again, and that gets a little bit dull, and we're just sort of waiting for things to happen. And now I think it's starting to happen. We're starting to see the president in an active role, taking an aggressive stance, and starting to be a strategist more than somebody who's constantly reacting to what's going on. So, of course, that's going to raise the interest. I'm seeing, after witnessing Logan as president and how wishy-washy and breakable under fire he was, we see now a throwback to the honorable president that Palmer portrayed in President Taylor, and her speech. It stood out for me, and I'm mentioning this to Kasia before, that it was not written in the style of the rest of 24 writing about urgent plot forwarding. There's a lot of game strategy at play in the writing and in the way the plots unfold in 24. So when Jack will say things like, if we don't do this, then this will happen, or this is our choice, if this, then this, and you're forced to choose between these difficult options. She's not about that. The speech was written outside of that style of rhetoric and basically stating the ideal, the philosophy of not negotiating with terrorists and why that's important. And it's a great statement, I think, about the importance of standing your ground even when things are all breaking down around you, even if it means sacrifice. It's an important statement in the world today. I thought it was a really great way of articulating why it's important to not capitulate and back down and try and self-preserve while other people are trying to harm you, not being a doormat. And I found it powerful because I thought it just had a really great, a really great impact. It wasn't just more plot writing.
Yeah.
So, and you could tell that not everybody in the cabinet was totally convinced, but that it at least paved the way for her to make the next step.
Well, I think, I think it spoke to who her character is because she spoke in that moment from the heart, right? And, she didn't, like you said, it was removed from that kind of rhetoric where she didn't try to use, rhetoric or logic to convince them. She just spoke from her heart and hoped that, in the end, even if they don't agree with her decision, they'll still support it because she's behind it and it's the courage of her convictions, right?
Now, I really loved, having some acting background, I was watching her performance, and I loved how I could feel her becoming thrilled by the resolution she felt to her ideal, the commitment that she had to her office, and to the principle of not capitulating. You could see that sense of exhilaration rising within her and being resolved within herself, and how that was a happy thing for her. It was difficult, but it was good, essentially. But then when she stepped away from the table and let the plane crash, let the tragedy and the weight of the situation overtake her, that moment of humanity and the switch was a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was. It really was. That was a very, very nice moment for her, for sure.
Yeah, it was.
So, not too much going on with the FBI tonight. They had a brief very short scene at the very beginning, and then that was it. But, Larry Moss was still losing his shit.
And I missed my Janice fix.
Yeah. No, there was no good Janice tonight.
Although there was some good Chloe with the I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm sure you were sick of me hollering at that. I was hooting. It was hilarious. Especially with Matoba opening his mouth and her putting the thing in.
Well, I knew that line was coming because I've seen spoiler previews.
Oh, see, I had no idea.
But yeah, no. But I think they were official releases, though. I don't think they were official sort of preview reels.
Yeah,
type thing,
no, I just thought that was a really great little bit of writing and
but so I knew it was coming, but the delivery was funny. Yeah.
You know what I wonder, since Chloe has come into the show, was there much humor in the show before she came around?
Mason was kind of the comic relief before Chloe came.
I guess he kind of was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But
it wasn't goofy.
No, it definitely. I wouldn't say goofy. I would say quirky. Quirky
yeah,
is the word.
Yeah. And I don't know. I laughed for the first time when Chloe came on the scene at the very beginning.
Yeah, and she told Jackie looked good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I mean, even in previous seasons,
in season three,
right from the get go, and how refreshing it was to be able to giggle a little bit. And then obviously they knew what they had created with her because they kept on writing more for that. And
but I think Chloe's sort of quirkiness and the little bit of comic relief that we do get in 24 that comes from her character works best when it's kind of organic and they give Mary Lynn the script and then she figures out how to kind of make it work with,
which is how I
with
feel
that quirk, because some of the lines that she gets delivered another way would not be funny or strange or weird at all,
which is
right?
precisely what's happening with Janice.
I think so, yeah.
And Janine Garofalo's performance, which is wonderful. They've found these actresses that can really. I hope that
somebody's trying to phone us. My speakers go all funny when people try to phone us. But
do you know what would be great if we started to get calls from you that we could address during our podcast?
Oh, that would be so cool! But then we'd have to give people our phone numbers. Do you really want to do that?
We could have some fake line or something. We could say, "Oh, I'm getting a call from so and so in Davenport, Iowa."
But we could take emails or something. I don't know.
That'd be great. Yeah. Maybe we could address some of your comments. This
sure.
way. Feel free. You know what? If you watch this video and you have comments about the things that we're talking about, or you disagree, or you agree, or you think whatever, I don't know, write. Make a comment and then we'll acknowledge that. That'd be really fun because I really love to interact with you. I really love how this year we're really able to start communicating with you guys and
yeah, it's fun. It's very fun to have a little bit of the back and forth ping pong this time around.
Yeah. So we welcome that. That'd be fun.
So I don't know. The only thing we didn't really cover yet is the whole scene with the first gentleman and.
Right. And, right. Oh my gosh. How grisly that was.
Yeah, totally grisly. And Gedge was total angel face sociopath right up to the very end, you know?
Yeah.
Totally creepy. So fucking creepy.
So creepy because the way he goes and kills Samantha is really excessive.
Oh, totally gratuitous.
Really violent and disgusting.
Yeah.
And
it was awful.
The sound of the plastic on his arm and the sound of the...
Yeah, she's definitely had one of the more gruesome 24 deaths in quite some time.
Yeah, it's really hard hitting. That whole bit is that gruesome edge to 24 that has to exist. That grit.
Yeah,
really
grit.
Disgusting kind of.
They're willing to kind of push the envelope in terms of what's acceptable to show on network television.
That's for sure.
With violence, right?
Yeah, no, and it kind of sickened me a little bit. And
yeah, it was pretty gross. It was pretty bad.
Now, how Taylor's going to respond in this situation is of great interest.
Well, he's got the best of Agent Gedge now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he managed to wrestle away the advantage and strangle him.
Mm-hmm.
How plausible it is that he would be strong enough to overpower a young man after he was just drugged by a paralyzing agent is debatable.
You saw the strength in his fists, though, and the fury in his heart.
But I guess, with enough adrenaline coursing through your veins, almost anyone's capable of almost anything. So,
man.
Should I suspend my disbelief on this one?
Yes. We should. I mean,
Kat is officially petitioning you to suspend your disbelief.
It's 24, people. Really, I mean, allow yourself the chance to be taken by this season because it's a good one. I think there's a lot of material there to enjoy, and debunking too much of it is robbing you of your chance to really have fun.
But I think we should close it off with that.
Sure.
Very positive thought.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say, Almeida be with you, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Absolutely.
Okay, bye.
Take it easy.